Well, first, it's really been an honor to have had this idea supported by the likes of the icons of climate change justice like Madam Mary Robinson, from where she comes from, the leadership she has provided, not only in her country, but the passion with which she works with women and women issues, but particularly climate justice. Christiana Figueres, the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC, and many other women who have been COP presidents in the past. But what struck me was the fact that women, particularly in developing countries, and in the most desperate of situations, have started to find their small solutions to deal with the immediate challenge that they're faced with, to adapt to the realities of life. Because in developing countries, or in all countries, developed and developing, women's role as caregivers, as in many of African countries and other developing countries, as food providers, would mean that when they are hit by the impact of the erratic weather patterns, for example, they need to find mechanisms to cope. So while we are doing what we do here as negotiators, as politicians, they have realities of life that they have to deal with. And I call this, or refer to this, and I'm sure we all agree, these are indigenous knowledge systems, because they've never been to depend on any proven science to deal with this. But this is the science they know and the science they use to deal with these challenges, and they do that better. But also to say, as we come here as experts, we need to also listen to the other experts who have already started adapting, even as we are battling to find a unified voice where we are seated in this air-conditioned environments.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
And how can you, as politicians, how can you really push women's cause forward and really ensure that the role is recognised both in the climate agenda but also in other agendas around the world?
Well, the first thing that happened here, which makes me very elated, is that we now have and have adopted here a gender day for climate change negotiations. So in every COP, we will have a day dedicating all negotiators and negotiations to issues that women are battling with across the world. Secondly, the leadership, global leadership, had also come to accept the reality that as Qatar has chosen this theme, 1 billion, one challenge, majority of the 1 billion happen to be women. But again, thirdly, that there's almost a consensus being built up here that we all just have to be gender smart. Being gender smart is not about pushing men or shoving men away, but is to make sure that, as African proverbs, which we have many of, say one hand does not clap, but two do and make sound. So this is about time that we acknowledge the contribution of this majority of the 7 billion population in the world.
And I guess the final point, you were involved in the very difficult negotiations last year in Durban. You were the COP president, Christiana Figueres, executive secretary, and I guess Connie Hedegaard, the EU chief negotiator. Three of the key members there at the negotiations. What do you think women bring to negotiations?
What women bring to the negotiations is the reality that this book reflects. Like I said earlier on, we are compelled by nature to listen to these voices, because these are the voices that see us as women leaders as the one who should be the bearer of the things that they can come and say here. That when we arrive here, we have to remember that we are still women, we are mothers, we are leaders. So the first constituency you must think of is where you come from. We are a leadership that comes or has been groomed by the struggles of women both from developing and developed countries, and that climate change is a global reality. So it's been such an honor and a pleasure to work with women like Connie, who brings the experience of Copenhagen with her. and Patricia Espinosa from different continents, if you like, or regions, from South Africa, Christiana, all of us. But what unified, what brought us together also was the passion, I can say. Even today, you know, when you have Connie, you not only have a leader in her, but you have the commitment and passion. First, because we are women. Second, we are leaders. Third, because we have the commitment.